All right, Coach Michael Nsien. First and foremost, congratulations on your appointment as the head coach of the America Under 19 team. How excited are you to this challenge?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. I think everyone knows the U.S. is coming. They're up and coming, and I won't say we quite arrived, but we're on the right track. So to coach the U19s, it's going to be an age group where a lot of these players are going to burst onto the scene. So I hope to make an impact that a lot of my players are moving into the first team, the senior team, and then they go from there.
All right, so this job comes with challenge, targets, and goals. But if I may ask, do you have any personal ambition?
Internal ambition for me.
Yes, what you tend to achieve with this new role?
Yeah, Yeah, I think it's important for a coach to always kind of put your stamp on things, and create an environment that players can excel. So first and foremost, I have to do the job with the federation to provide players for the senior team. But my own ambition within this team is to create an environment where players love to play for the country. They want to give their best, and then collectively, we want to put the U.S. on the map globally about one of being the top countries in the world in football.
All right. Looking at your background, you were born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and maybe I would say at that time, Tulsa is a place where football is not that big.
Yeah,
So it leads to the next question: what inspired you to play the beautiful game?
yeah. My first coach was my dad, so I think
Wow.
obviously a Nigerian father that supports his kid to play. That's sometimes that can be rare even. But he put a lot of passion and a lot of support from him, and he wanted me to try to go as far as I can in the sport. And I think this is the best way to repay him and my family is just to keep climbing and representing our family.
All right. You played for a few clubs before calling it, goodbye to your pro career. So at what point did you tell yourself you were going to become a coach?
I think that time, early 2000s in the United States, I think the MLS was there are still clubs growing and then clubs leaving, so it wasn't a stable league. MLS, not a lot of money in the league. I was starting a family. I think the next best step after playing for me was coaching. So once I felt like I couldn't support a family anymore, and I wanted to make sure I could provide for my family, it was time to take the next step, and it was always going to be coaching.
Hmm. All right. Being a prominent African American coach in the US, I'm sure you've come with a little bit, some challenges. So, would you like to share some with them, and how were you able to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, being an African American coach in the United States, I think one of the biggest challenges we have, you never know if you're going to get an opportunity. You never know if you're being watched or considered for an opportunity. So, as hard as you might be working, you have
Hmm.
this internal frustration that, man, it might not come to fruition. Anything might not come from this, So for me, it's about just continuing, even though it can be frustrating at times. Just continue to make steps and make relationships. Make sure we continue to build our network. We don't have a lot of people that look like us that make
Hmm.
decisions, that hire coaches, that are signing the checks. So it's important that we network and kind of build out those relationships with people.
Well, that comes to mind. Looking at your CV, you have a very rich CV. You have the highest coaching certificates. And does it bother you at all that you don't get all those top jobs? Does it bother you?
I would say, like maybe a couple of years ago, I would say bothered me. I would say my approach now, as I've probably become just more mature, it continues to motivate me. I do it for more than just my own accolades. Like I feel like I represent a lot of African Americans and African people, and so that's who I coach for. Like I want to get on that platform to represent them, to break barriers. So I don't really have time to be frustrated. I have to continue to push doors down.
Yeah. So you are well-traveled tacticians, and there's a time I listened to your interview, and you said you had your best coaching education in Benfica and Sporting Lisbon. So let me ask, why Portugal, and what makes their coaching, culture very special?
Yeah, that's the first thing I asked myself before I traveled those places. There were so many Portuguese coaches throughout the world, And I'm thinking to myself, man, what is it about there? I need to go see. So just through relationships, I was able to just observe and like Porto as well. And you just see the heritage of coaches that they put all over the world. So I think they have clarity in what they want to do. They're very objective. I think the players that come through are very objective. I think they want to come through and be professional players, but I think their environment that they create, there's a lot of hunger. Like there's a lot of
Hmm.
competition in that area, and it kind of just sharpen each other. I think that they're a European country that aren't really they're not always politically correct with things. You know how Mourinho is; they speak the truth, and those guys, iron sharpens iron. So I think to be in that environment where it's very difficult and competitive, I think it brings out the best in them.
And if I'm not wrong, is it safe to say that Jose Mourinho is your coaching idol, or do you have
Uh,
anyone else?
Uh, I'm also a Chelsea supporter, so that would be easy to say. I do like Jose Mourinho and kind of followed his career, but I would say someone that maybe people wouldn't understand, Eddie Howe. I
Wow.
think
Why?
Eddie Howe for me, I think in terms of his career, cut short playing career, I kind of relate.
Hmm.
And then he was coaching in his own backyard, you know, and I did the same in Tulsa. And then you can kind of see the challenges. He got sacked at Everton, and then he's bounced back. And I can kind of share some similar experiences with him. I actually had a call with him because we had to interview someone for a pro license, and I reached out to him, and it was about 2 weeks before he got sacked, and he just told me, you know, I'm under a lot of pressure right now. I don't really have time to help, or I would. And I could tell what he was going through. So as a coach, that meant a lot that he was even able to share that brief moment.
Wow. So you played for the Nigerian under 23 team. You know, this is a fact that so many people did not know. So how did you break into that under 23 team in 2003? What happened? How did you break into that team?
Yeah, it's strange enough. I was in Tulsa, I think, on a break from college, and I'm sure a lot of people will be familiar with James Peters. But Coach James Spears, that was the
Hmm.
assistant for the Olympic team for Nigeria
Hmm.
'96, has obviously been with the national team for a long time. He was doing a master's degree in
Hmm.
Oklahoma. So I think my dad came across him and he saw me training and things like that. And he said, "You should go and train and see in Nigeria and get that experience." So I went to Nigeria. Things went really well for me during the camp, but it's strange because I actually got malaria for the first time there.
Wow.
I,
Wow.
I suffered a bit, but yeah, I have no regret with that experience. It was a wonderful experience.
So would you like to share some of the good memories with us in the Nigerian under 23 team?
Yeah, I would say first is obviously when you're in any team, it's always the players. You know what I mean? So I remember my first roommate was Victor Ezeji,
Wow.
which as a great player, but as a person, what a wonderful person. He kind of obviously he was a top player there in Nigeria, so he's the one that kind of introduced me and to the group and kind of embedded me to make me feel like I was part of the group. Got to see so many parts of Nigeria that I hadn't seen. I think at that
Wow.
moment we had a lot of games in the north, so it was a lot of got to see a lot of the part of the country that I hadn't seen and experienced. So it was beautiful. It was great.
Wow. So based on your performance then, do you feel like you had a chance to have made it to the Super Eagles?
Maybe not from our performance there because you know being sick and trying to recover, I wasn't at my best at that time.
Hmm.
But of course, all players aspire to that. It's just only a few get that opportunity. So didn't make it there, but I still really enjoyed my experience.
And who were your favorite Nigerian players at that time? Super Eagles, Nigerian players that you look
Oh
up
man,
to at that time.
that's a good question. First, obviously, if I'm going legend, I gotta go JJ Okocha. Then and then I'm gonna go Kanu, and then after them, just because of Chelsea, I'm gonna go Mikel. But
Wow.
I do have an addition to that. Um, one of the things that inspired me to become a player, I was at the game Nigeria versus Bulgaria in
Wow.
1993. I was 13 years old, and I wandered around, left my dad,
Hmm.
wandered around to the Nigerian side, and then Rashidi Akini scored the goal. the hands in the net. I got to be with the Nigerian fans, and I saw that triggered me that I'm going to be a footballer for the rest of my life.
Wow, wow, that's brilliant. And as I try to, round up this interview, now in Tulsa, you had, Solomon Kwambi, who played for the Super Eagles at the Combinations Cup. He had a couple of matches for the Super Eagles. You had from Udo, who was at that, I think, before he joined, was the NPFL top scorer. Based on their performance or performances in your team, how would you rate the quality in the NPFL?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent, no doubt. I think Solomon, as a defensive player, was able to adjust probably a little bit more easy. Mfon is, you go to a new country as an attacking player, it takes time. I can tell now. I still talk to him and follow him. He's found his form in a different country. I would say the NPFL maybe needs some clarity on what their true goals are. I think
Hmm.
it's a league. It's a league that's supposed to expose players for a higher league. That's where it's at on the food chain. I think there's a
Hmm.
little too much emphasis in winning the tournaments and things like that, where they need to focus more on the production and the exposure, so people could actually watch it in different parts of the world, and they can recruit the players. And it's like they create an environment that the production looks good enough that if someone in Europe is watching, they can say, "Oh, this player can make it in our league."
Hmm.
Like it has to be palatable for coaches or scouts and people across the world to be able to watch and kind of compare and see where players fit in. I don't think they have that clarity at this
Hmm.
moment.
Well, I begin to wonder that when we qualified for the World Cup in 1994, a couple of players have come through the ranks of the MPFL, JJ, like you mentioned, and a lot of them. And today we have a lot of foreign-based pros in the Super Eagles, and one begins to wonder if the talents in the MPFL, based on your assessment, they are not really good to make the Super Eagles. Am I right? Is my observation right? Or
No, there's definitely players in that league that can mix with the foreign-based players
hmm,
and compete. I think maybe they don't get the credit because the foreign-based players obviously are getting the exposure, and you can just trust the body of work because you've seen it
hmm,
against the highest quality of players in the world at an international level. I think the gap needs to be closed a bit in terms of the respect for the NPFL. So
hmm,
they have to build that respect for themselves. The quality of the marketing and the sponsorship and just the overall presentation. They have to step up. They have to make it a better brand.
All right, and let me ask this. Over time we've seen foreign countries. Like England, we have Bukayo Saka. We once had Agbolao who played for the English national team, and now you are the handler of the US national team. Would you be so kind to, refer some of our best players to us, or would you want them to make your team in the US?
Oh man, that's good. If I'm working with the U.S., I have to do my job and I have to be objective. I have to be objective about it. So anytime you're wearing someone else's uniform and that hat and they're paying you, you do the best you can for them. Obviously, as a Nigerian American, my heart's in two pieces.
Hmm,
It's green and white, and it's red, white, and blue as well. So of course, anything that I can do for either country, I would do my best. But if whoever I'm working for, I do my best for them.
hmm. All right. Currently, you represent the brand, as in you are the face of African American coaches in the US and in diaspora, and everyone look up to you. So, if you have a chance to, talk to those of colors in quote who wants to achieve your laudable heights, what are those things you will tell them so they can at least be a success like you?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough that there's quite a few coaches that reach out that I try to mentor, and then I try to always stay connected. I know I get busy, but I always try to give back in that way. One of the things that I try to tell people the most is first and foremost, it's up to us to
Hmm,
change people's mindset. So we have to go in and check every box, whether that's a coaching license or going and studying at places when you go into those environments, don't just try to get the education, try to be the best. Like try to get respect, like of course, and of course you have to network with people, and you
hmm,
never know the people that you're surrounded by, what they're going to be doing in the next 4 or 5 years. It's been my experience in a coaching license that, hey, in 2 years from now, this guy's coaching in this country or a sporting director. You never know who you're in the room with.
Sure.
Always try to be professional and make relationships and give 100%. And then there's going to be very difficult moments, of course, but that's life. You can't let it take you down. You have to let it inspire you to do more. Be consistent. Got to have stamina. It's going to take us a long time to get there, but I can see the big picture. There's going to be plenty of guys that look like me over the next 10 years, I hope, coaching at a high level.
All right, the man Osimhen, I'm going to bring you this. I think this, one of the last questions. Osimhen,
Yeah.
what do you make of the beast? His performance so far in Napoli.
Man, he's been amazing. He's been consistent over the last few years, which is not always easy for a striker, and somewhat healthy. So he's had a great ride. I hope he continues with that. I think a lot of people thought he would have left and moved on this year, but I hope it pays off for him and he continues to have another good year before he finally makes a move to another club where he stays. But his challenge is to do it over and over again in the same environment. I think once people see you in that environment and you've kind of set the bar really high, like he has, like anything less than 20 some odd goals for him is going to be a failure. So there's a lot of pressure staying in the same league for an extended time. If he's able to do it again, then I think his market skyrockets. And then if he wants to move, he'll have that option for sure.
And do you feel it's a near impossible task for him to compete for the Ballon d'Or prize?
This next one.
Yeah, he's been nominated among the players.
Yeah, I know he's nominated, but anytime Messi wins the World Cup, and then you have Haaland that scored so many goals. I think once Messi is gone and that generation moves on, I think this is that last year for him. I think it opens the door for a new generation, which I think he is definitely in that top 4 or 5 in that highest marker for a top player. So I think after this next one, then I put him up there. But I say they're probably going to give it to Messi on his way out on this one.
All right. And lastly, do you still keep tab with your Nigerian roots? Do you still, come to Nigeria, your favorite Nigerian food? And I want to know about this.
Oh man, it's been a while since I've been to Nigeria. I think through COVID and things like that, and then work, it's been difficult. Man, I definitely want to go back around Christmas, and it's always the best time to be in Nigeria around the holiday time. Favorite food, and I love egusi. I love egusi. Then my family is from Akwa Ibom, so Edikai
Wow.
Kong. There's some certain traditional foods in that area. I don't get to eat often, but when I'm back in Tulsa, I get to enjoy some.
Lastly, would you let your children play for Nigeria?
Short answer is of course. We actually Randy Waldrum, the women's national team coach, spent a lot of time in Tulsa as a coach. So him and my dad used to coach against each other. So I know the coach very well. They were playing against the U.S. in Kansas City, and I took my daughter. My daughter plays, and my son. They both play. I took my daughter to the Nigeria-U.S. game. She got to watch a training session. All the players signed their jersey. I mean, there was a life-changing moment for her. Randy introduced her to all the players. Said, "Hey, she might play with some of you guys one day." So I think in that moment, I think, man, he might have changed our heart to green and white as well. But of course, I hope my children definitely identify with their roots. We're Nigerian American, and it's in that order. America is it's a diverse melting pot. But when you're from the outside, they put that other country in front for a reason. So we consider ourselves Nigerian Americans. So of course, if they get that opportunity, they better take it.
All right, Coach Michael Nsien, I want to say a big thank you for this rare privilege, and I wish you all the very best in this new role. And hopefully, some days, maybe you become the U.S. National team coach. It's our prayers that you succeed. And thank you very much for your time. I don't take this opportunity for granted.
I appreciate you for reaching out. It could be U.S., it could be Nigeria. You never know.
Sure, sure, sure. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate you.